Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling unheard? Or worse, feeling like you unintentionally made someone else feel small? It happens more often than we realize. We all want to connect, to express ourselves, and to be understood. But sometimes judgment sneaks into our words, even when we don't mean it. Today, we're diving into a skill that can transform your relationships, deepen your empathy, and help you truly connect with the people around you. Communicating without judgment. Whether you're talking to a friend, a partner, a coworker, or even yourself, this episode is for you. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let's explore how to speak in a way that opens hearts instead of closing doors. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to English and Chill. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Norman. Today's episode is all about something super important: how to communicate without judging.
That's right. Whether you're talking to a friend, a coworker, a family member, or even a stranger, how you speak matters. And sometimes we don't even realize we're being judgmental.
Yeah, we might think we're just giving advice or telling the truth, but the way we say things can hurt, even if we don't mean to.
So today, we'll talk about what judgmental communication sounds like, why it's a problem, and most importantly, how you can speak in a more kind and understanding way.
We'll also give you lots of real-life examples so you can start using these tips right away.
Let's get started.
So first, let's talk about what judging really means in communication. Jessica, how would you explain that?
Good question. Judging someone in communication means you're making a decision about whether they're good or bad, right or wrong, smart or stupid, based on your own opinion.
Right. And you express that opinion directly or indirectly. For example, if someone says they're tired and you reply, "You're always tired, you're just lazy," that's judging.
Exactly. You're not listening. You're putting a label on them.
And here's another example. If your friend says, "I don't want to go to that party," and you say, "You're so antisocial," that's also judgmental.
Yes. Instead of understanding their feelings or asking more questions, you're just giving them a negative label.
Judging can also sound like blaming. "You should have done this." Or, "Why can't you be more like him?"
And when people feel judged, they stop talking. They feel small. They feel like you don't understand them.
That's why learning to speak without judging is so powerful. It helps build trust and connection.
Now let's ask a big question. Why do we judge others when we talk?
Sometimes we judge because we think we're helping. Like when we say, "You should do this," or "You shouldn't feel that way."
Yes, but we're not really helping. We're telling people what we think is right instead of asking what they need.
Another reason is habit. Maybe you grew up hearing judgmental talk at home or at school. You learned to speak that way without thinking.
True. Or sometimes we judge to protect ourselves. We feel uncomfortable with someone's feelings, so we push them away with judgment.
That's deep, but it's real. And becoming aware of our words is the first step to changing that.
So, what does it sound like to not judge? What does non-judgmental communication look like?
Great question. First, it sounds like listening, really listening. Not planning your reply, not fixing, not blaming.
Exactly. You try to understand how the other person feels. You might say something like, "That sounds really hard," or "I hear you."
It's also about using curiosity instead of judgment. For example, if someone says they made a mistake at work, you can ask, "What happened?" instead of saying, "That was stupid."
Yes. When you're curious, you're showing interest, not blame. It helps the other person open up more.
Here's a tip. Use I statements instead of you statements. For example, "I feel confused about that," instead of "You're not making sense."
That's a great one. I statements talk about your experience instead of putting blame on the other person. Let's do some side-by-side examples. I'll say the judgmental version, and you give the non-judgmental one, Jack.
All right, let's do it.
You're being so dramatic.
It sounds like this situation is really upsetting for you.
You always mess things up.
I noticed this didn't go as planned. Want to talk about it?
You shouldn't feel that way.
I can see this is really affecting you.
Why can't you be more responsible?
Is there something you need help with to manage this better?
Nice. See how different that feels?
Yes, the second versions don't attack. They invite conversation.
Okay, so how do we practice this kind of communication?
Start with awareness. Pay attention to your words and your tone. Are you judging or are you trying to understand?
Next, slow down. You don't always have to reply right away. take a breath. Think about what the other person is saying.
And if you catch yourself judging, just stop. You can say something like, "Sorry, I didn't mean that. Let me try again."
That's actually powerful. Admitting a mistake builds trust.
Another way to practice is to ask open-ended questions. Not yes or no, but ones like, "How did that make you feel?" Or "What was going through your mind?"
And finally, practice self-compassion. If you're kind to yourself, it's easier to be kind to others.
Now here's a tricky part. What if someone else is being judgmental with you?
Ooh, good one. First, stay calm. Don't fight fire with fire.
Yes, you can say something like, "I feel hurt when you say that." Or, "Can we talk about this in a different way?"
And remember, you don't have to accept every opinion. Just because someone says something doesn't mean it's true.
Exactly. Create boundaries. You can walk away from conversations that feel unsafe or toxic.
So let's review what we've learned today.
Judging in communication means putting labels or blame on others. It can hurt relationships.
Non-judgmental communication means listening, being curious, and using kind, open language.
It's not always easy, but it's worth practicing. It helps us build better connections with others and with ourselves.
And remember, every conversation is a chance to show empathy. To say, I see you. I hear you. You matter.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend.
And don't forget to follow or subscribe. We've got more tips on better communication coming next week.
Until then, keep talking, keep listening, and keep learning.
See you next time on English and Chill.